Welcome to the Orchid City Zoo. We have a lot of work to do today, so let's get right to it. In case this is your first time visiting the Orchid City Zoo, this is our Sandbox series where we're not bound to any themes. The goal of this zoo is to be as absolutely realistic as possible, and we're doing a good job so far with our Asia Quest exhibit. Our zoo is still very young, but Asia Quest is our first huge expansion to it. It's home to 4 species of animals already, and today we're going to be adding the 5th. The sun bear, red-crowned crane, binturong, and Japanese macaque already call Asia Quest home. Typically liking cooler climates, the Japanese macaque have their own special indoor area. They also share this outdoor area with the red-crowned crane, but they're the only ones who can climb. Being unable to climb means the red-crowned cranes are stuck in their outdoor exhibit, but it's plenty big for them. Our red-crowned cranes are typically the first animal people are going to see when they enter Asia Quest, and they make a very good first impression. They're loud and colorful. Another animal that can be seen both inside and outside are our binturongs. However, sometimes they don't understand how this door works. I don't get it. The most recent addition, and home to the largest exhibit in Asia Quest, is our sun bear. If you watched the episode, you'll know that she has quite the personality. Our sun bear is adjusted extremely well into her new habitat. She spends the daytime climbing and exploring about. In the evening and at nighttime, you can typically find her in her indoor enclosure, eating her favorite snack out of her favorite bamboo feeder. Asia Quest is developing incredibly rapidly, however all good things must come to an end. Today we're finally going to cap off our Mega Build mini-series. As you can see, we still have a lot of work to do on the inside. Interior detail is just as important as exterior. A lot of the interior detail is very samey so far. We're going to have to find a way to change that. Imagine being a sun bear and not having to worry about this complicated stuff. The 2 most important exhibits in any mega build are the first and the last one. The first is important to give you a good impression of what's to come, and the last is so you remember the exhibit for a really long time. Today we're going to be building for the star of Asia Quest, the Bengal Tiger, and trust me, we're giving them the best treatment possible. Keep your eye out for these 3 items hidden somewhere in the video. You guys found the last 3 extremely quickly last time. I was really impressed, so I'm going to have to do a lot better job at hiding these ones. Before we get started today, there are a few things we should probably know about tigers. They swim really well, they can jump really high, and they are really, really dangerous. Containing these beasts is going to be our #1 priority today, aside from giving them a beautiful enclosure. One Bengal tiger requires 705 square meters of space. This isn't a problem, but as you can see, the fences have to be really tall. We're going to be building the exhibit right here at the back of Asia Quest, with the natural barrier already in place. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. This might be the video that gets us to 1,000. Thank you guys. Typically I have about an hour's worth of planning before I like to jump into a build, especially one with an animal this important. However, this time I really didn't go in with a plan. The first thing that I did was just burst a hole through the wall of Asia Quest that really wasn't being used for anything, and made a staff-only path. Then, I'm just going to be simply using a very easy, basic wooden barrier that has climb-proof properties and is tall enough so the tiger can't get over it. The guests aren't going to see this barrier, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. Swinging around to the other side of the enclosure, we're going to be using the exact same technique. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is that you make this thing climb-proof and at least 10 feet tall, because the last animal you want to escape your zoo is a tiger. They are not very friendly towards guests. The 705 square meters required for this exhibit was surprisingly low. Our sun bear, and there's only one of them, needed over 900, and they also needed climbing equipment and a little bit of water too. So these tigers are actually relatively easy to take care of and don't need as much space as you would think. The other big cats in this game are not like this, but this should be ample space for them. Let's raise it a little bit. It dawned on me while building, every single exhibit that we have in this zoo so far doesn't really delve into elevation, aside from the sun bear. And I'm not talking about climbing equipment, I'm talking about physical elevation. This is something I never really include in my zoos that I really want to start doing. We have a little bit of elevation for our guests and some slight inclines, it's not all just on a flat surface. However, this exhibit, I really want to have some mountainy terrain. not everything is going to be completely flat. Matter of fact, I want it to be the opposite. I want the back of this exhibit to be relatively tall and everything else descending, with the peak being right here where we're building currently. We just have to make sure we don't break through the fence. The main reason I want to do this is to add a waterfall and a flowing river through the bottom of this exhibit, and we can't necessarily do that on the decline or the incline of the hill. So we're going to have to make the hill back far enough to the point where it can be far away from the river. This will make it like a realistic riverbank, because even though the tigers don't require water, they really do like them. Every single tiger exhibit I've ever been to in real-life zoos has had a fair bit of water inside of it. I know the stereotype is cats don't like water, but the stereotypical cat's also about 10 pounds, while tigers can weigh up to 300. The tiger's on the way, and I'm quite happy of how this exhibit looks so far. It's gonna need some work, they can probably escape, but it's a really nice start. Let's see if the tiger likes it. Surprisingly, the brand new tiger doesn't really hate the exhibit. No hard shelter, and obviously there's no enrichment or terrain requirements that are being met, but most animals that I bring into this zoo start off in the red zone. These guys are already in the green. Doesn't look like he can escape either. That's actually really good. The only semi-major change I'm going to have to make to this exhibit is make it slightly larger. We were off by about 50 to 75 square meters. In order to do that, we're just going to bump this out by about one additional segment. I really don't like that. That's bothering me a lot. Let's just make it straight. Alright, my favorite phrase of the day. Close enough. Let's see if the tiger likes it now. Hopefully he can't escape. No escaping. And perfect terrain requirements. Okay, perfect. Whenever I'm messing around with the terrain, whether it be elevation, color, texture, pretty much anything, the first thing I always do in Planet Zoo is make everything completely hard soil. The reason I do this is because, first of all, it makes it look more like a construction site, and it's just satisfying to fix it. It's like a coloring book, you know, when it starts off black and white, and then you just add color by color, and eventually you're going to get a complete picture. But the second reason I do it is because it makes things a lot more visual, and I'm a very visual learner. So when I see something that's still soil, I know I haven't worked there yet. It's just a really simple way of breaking things down. Speaking of simple, the easiest way that I personally find to do waterfalls and little rivers like this is actually work in reverse. Build where you want your river or waterfall to go, and then dig the trench that'll take you to the waterfall where it's actually dispensing the water. You can very clearly see right now this is going to be the end of the waterfall, and over here is going to be the start. The next thing that we're going to do is get rid of some of this soil. I know I've just placed it, but now we have to actually make it make sense in terms of the build. Think about in real life what's around water. You've got rocks, soil itself, different shades of sand, among different textures. I really like to use rock first at the base, and then layer in coarse sand, and then just normal sand, because it makes the coarse sand look like it's wet, so that's why I like to place it closer to the water itself. Just keep layering your textures until eventually you get back to short or long grass, whatever your animal needs. The tiger, in this case, needs both, but a little bit more long grass, which is rare in this game. The last thing that I want to do for the pre-build is actually dig into the cliff right here. We're going to be making the tiger's hard shelter an actual cave, which is kind of different to what we typically would normally do. To do this, we're going to be using the flatten to foundation feature, a little bit of the push, a little bit of the pull, and a lot of the smooth terrain feature. We just have to make sure we keep checking the traversable area to make sure we don't accidentally make a location where the tiger can escape from, like we just did. Yeah, that's going to be a problem if we don't change that. Enrichment items next, and if there's one thing you need to know about big cats and enrichment, is that they act basically the same as house cats, they're just about 40 times the size. This means they're extremely intelligent and also really like to play despite being fierce predators. When you think of a tiger, you probably wouldn't think of a really playful creature, but they surprisingly are. They can grow extremely close with their handlers at zoos. Their attachment can also be negative, however. Tigers are one of the very few animals on the planet that are capable of remembering human actions and their faces, which is a really, really dangerous combination if you manage to wrong one. Tigers have been reported hunting down humans that have tried to poach them, or their mates in the past. They literally can remember which humans out of a group tried to kill them and then act accordingly, depending on how a wild animal sees fit. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is they're extremely intelligent and extremely deadly, and can remember you if you manage to tick it off. So a tiger should be the absolute last animal you want to mess with, in the wild, in captivity, basically anywhere. Surprisingly, since the release of the aquatic pack, I've actually never used this waterfall piece, but now that I have, I really don't think I can ever go back. The best way I've found to use it is actually to mix it with the special effects. I really like the waterfall top piece, ironically at the bottom of the waterfall. It adds a lot of splash that seems realistic to me. The most important part of the waterfall is actually not the water itself, it's how you hide the waterfall. You want to do this with rocks. Faux rocks work really well with this, but personally I like to use the more natural rocks with a waterfall. I just think it's a more official and sturdy look. Faux rocks have their place in more artificial looking exhibits, like you'd build for a seal or a sea lion in my opinion. However, we're going for a very, very natural look. In order to make a rock wall like this, what I like to do is start with the biggest rocks possible. This makes the foundation. Think about a house. You always start a house by building the basement first. Building a waterfall like this is the exact same. In real life it would collapse without this foundation. However, right now, we're going to use smaller rocks and build off of the foundation. We're going to loop this over to the roof we've been making of this entire exhibit, over where the tiger's cave is going to be. We're going to slightly lower the elevation of the rocks, make sure you have random rotation on as well. Sometimes random rotation is really helpful, other times you have to do it manually yourself to get the perfect angles you want. But then just keep building up. Use different rocks of varying shapes, and just keep layering on the mountain that you've already built. This way, tigers probably won't be able to climb up there since their hitboxes act a little bit differently with rocks than they do with the natural terrain. Once you've done this, go back to the bottom of the foundation and keep adding more small rocks to the bottom of it. Try to add little land barriers, some seawalls to the river. Just add as many rocks as possible. The complexity meter is never your friend when working with rocks or plants. After all of your big and small rocks are placed and you have your little details down, try to add even smaller details. This can be in terms of small plants that are along the rocks, because remember, plants can grow on rocks, especially in a fictional game where you can place them in the middle of the sky. Add some stalactites, add some stalagmites, add some rocks that are holding up other larger rocks, pretend to mess around with the angles. You can really do a lot here to make these rockworks more detailed. It's one of the tougher parts in my opinion because they look really good already even without details, but once you start adding the details, it'll look even better to the point where you're not going to want to stop. Just keep adding big rocks, keep adding small rocks, and if you think you've added enough rocks, add 10 more, and then we can talk about being done. We're using a very similar mindset when decorating this exhibit as we did when we decorated our sun bear exhibit. So if you watched that episode, this might be a little bit redundant, but in case you didn't, we'll go over it again. Effectively what we're going to be doing is making sure the tiger, which has a fairly large hitbox, can still move around. So a bulk of the detail is actually going to be towards the waterfall and the rocks, which it already can't go near since its hitbox is so big. When using this strategy, you're free to use any plant in the game, even trees that are sunk into the ground and their leaves are peering through to make custom bushes. Typically you wouldn't be able to do this with just any animal, but since the tiger already isn't going to be walking over here where these plants are, it doesn't matter what you use. You can use absolutely any detail that you want. Luckily, the Bengal tiger is a species in this game which really likes plant life, just like our sun bear did. Animals that don't necessarily like plant life, ones that come to mind are the gray seal and the California sea lion, can be really tricky to build for because their habitat are really difficult to make look good and give them 100% happiness. Animals like the Bengal tiger are much easier because you can put as many plants in here as you want, and they'll probably still want more. One thing I want to start to incorporate in some of my builds are a little bit of dead plant life, like these dead trees that we're adding to the very top of their cave. I like the effect that it gives when the roots are hanging down. I also don't really get to mess around with various species of bamboo very much, so I'm taking advantage of that in Asia Quest while I can, because we're probably not going to build for another Asian animal for a decent amount of time. We'll talk about the future later. For now, I decided to get rid of the plants in the bottom of the lake bed and actually replace it with concrete, just so it looks that much more man-made. The very last detail I wanted to add for now is to add a bunch of willow trees and taller ones to the background of this exhibit. That way you can't really see what's behind it. While we fill in this last little extra space with some basic foliage and rocks, I thought it would be interesting if we could learn a little bit about the Bengal tiger together. Despite being such a famous and iconic animal, I will admit I don't really know a whole lot about any big cats. It's kind of an animal genre I just gloss over. The Bengal tiger is actually the largest of all of the tiger subspecies. Adult males can weigh between 400 and 600 pounds. Another really interesting fact about all tiger species is that they have a very unique set of patterns. Each tiger is completely unique from one another, similar to human fingerprints. These stripes actually help them blend into their forest habitat. If you think about it, a lot of animals from Eastern Asia are actually orange. Orangutans are another species that come to mind. They use this camouflage to be apex predators and mainly hunt large prey such as deer, wild boar, and sometimes even water buffalo. They are also known to occasionally prey on smaller animals like rabbits and birds, and actually have been recorded to be one of the very few species to actively hunt and kill humans. In the animal kingdom, this is exceedingly rare. Not that an animal can kill a human. A lot of species can, such as various species of sharks. You got crocodilians that can, but the difference is these animals act purely on instinct. Tigers and other big cats are intelligent enough to know exactly what they're doing, so the fact that they're willing to attack humans is a little bit scary to me. Like our sun bear from the last episode, Bengal tigers, unlike other big cats, are primarily solitary animals. They establish very large territories and prefer to live alone, except during mating season, or when a mother is raising her cubs. Tigers make very good mothers. This is because tiger cubs are actually born blind and completely rely on their mother for care for about the first month of their life. Without the mother around, these tiger cubs would stand absolutely no chance in the harsh environment in which they inhabit. I always find it interesting when an animal can ride the fine line between sheer ferocious beast and caring and awesome mother. Tigers do that exceedingly well. What do you guys think of the exhibit? I'm really happy with it. We used the small amount of space we gave the tiger really well. The guests also have an exceptionally good view of the tiger, and the waterfall as well. There's not a whole lot of places where the tiger can hide, but he does have ample space if he does want to get away from the guest's peering eye. The tiger really enjoys to go in his water and shake off too, and when he's tired, he's even been seen resting in his cave. The entirety of the exhibit is fully functional, which is exactly what I wanted. Don't forget to leave name suggestions for the tiger in the comments below as well. In the next episode, we're going to be revealing names for all of the animals in Asia Quest. We have a lot of them too. It's going to be a really good episode, because Asia Quest is almost done. It looks like our male tiger needs to go down for a nap. While he does that, we should probably think about trying to fix up the rest of the enclosure, because we haven't really touched up where the guests are going to be staying yet. They have a really nice view, but nowhere to sit. The last thing we need to do in today's episode is fix up the roof and the interior of the tiger's viewing. It just looks a little bit incomplete. We're not going to be finishing the entirety of Asia Quest in this episode. I'll probably do the rest off screen, but this area for the tiger, this is part of their exhibit, so this is definitely going to be included. About 4 milliseconds for you guys is an hour and a half for me. Editing is easy, building is hard. The interior is actually completely done, although we're going to wait till the end final Asia Quest episode to reveal everything. We're going to do a complete summary video up next. That'll be a relatively quick one, but we're going to reveal all of the animals' names as well. It's going to be exciting. This is just as much your series as it is mine. Just because I'm the one building it doesn't mean I'm more important than the viewers. It's so weird to see this build completely done, minus the last few details, which we're going to be doing off screen. I remember just a few weeks ago when it was just a drawing on a piece of paper. Like I just said, we're going to do one more final Asia Quest episode as a summary. We're going to be naming the animals, so if you have any good animal name suggestions for any of the 5 species in Asia Quest, feel free to leave them in the comments below and you have a good chance of being in the next video. Asian animals aren't off the menu quite yet. I'm sure we're going to have a few more in this zoo, But for now, we're probably going to take a break and delve more into the Africa pack. I'm really excited for that DLC, and I haven't been able to touch it since it came out, so I'm really excited to jump into it. That being said, that's going to be it for now. Kingpin out. Hopefully next time I talk to you guys, we'll be 1,000 subscribers strong. I'll see you then. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Kingpin out.